To me, death penalty and prison reform is like almost, it goes hand in hand to discuss it, but to deal with the death penalty specific, the pros and cons against the death penalty, gotta deal with the death penalty. This is how it is we could actually reform and make the prison more humane and all those things. So the actual other mechanisms for that.
So are we saying that
the death penalty as the death penalty?
Sorry. Are you saying therefore that to prove that that prison reform is a more feasible and less morally ambiguous alternative is not pertinent to the debate on whether or not the death penalty is a viable option? Because in my personal view, I think that the only way to properly argue whether or not the death penalty should be, because the thing is, this is a debate that has been going on since we came up with the option of putting the words death and penalty together in a sentence and calling that law. We have been arguing death penalty. We've been arguing death penalty against prison reform since prison reform, since we invented the electric chair.
Actually, no, you're actually wrong there.
Why would you say that?
There's always been a death penalty. The death penalty is something basic instinct in man. You kill anything that belongs to me or that I value, and I kill you.
But it has always been considered as morally ambiguous. For the sake that if we are arguing that killing someone is wrong, then we are arguing that killing someone is wrong. It has always been a statement. That has been considered morally ambiguous.
It has never been morally ambiguous.
Even from biblical times.
It has never been morally ambiguous, especially not from biblical times. Because up to the New Testament, God killed somebody for not paying for lying to Peter it was, and not giving them the whole amount of money from the land when they sold the land. So God was frequently involved in implementing the death penalty. And religion, and the Muslim states, and many religions, except Buddhist and Eastern views of reincarnation and stuff, support the death penalty. Well, from historically, truth is the own doctrine embedded, the concept of death.
Buddhist has been in Sri Lanka has been systematically involved in Tamil genocides over the last couple of years.
Genocide?
Yeah.
I have to research that.
That's how the whole Tamil Tigers movement came up.
I think that was actually a debate that was going on within the United Nations General Assembly just last year, because they had another wipeout, they had another genocide.
Let's not diverge.
Yeah, sorry, that's not the way, but I understand what you're saying. But at the same time, are we saying that killing an individual is not in some way morally questionable? Because then then you're changing the concept. Yeah, okay.
It is morally questionable.
Everything we do
cost.
is morally questionable, right? That's why we judge other people's behavior as well as we judge our own behavior. Because everything you do is morally questionable.
Okay.
You trying to say that it shouldn't have no morally questionable, it is wrong. We not support it.
Whose morality is the deciding factor?
The citizens of whichever state be. If it is right, we believe that justice should be just, and if it is you're going to kill somebody for an offense. Now, when you say the death penalty, you could also argue that suppose the society decide to implement the death penalty for stealing. We, as a society, will find that unjust in this society, but another society halfway around the world might say that's okay. But we're talking about us, not them, not the others. We're talking about here in Trinidad.
But then I have
you could relate to other societies, but you can't use them as a basis or a structure to judge us on.
But then I'm asking two questions. The first question is, are we saying then that an alternative to justice is less just than the death penalty, and B, that justice is not a universal construct, that justice in no way is different from justice in Canada today?
Repeat the question, that justice, are we saying that
another alternative to justice is less just than the death penalty, and that justice is not universal across nations?
Justice, firstly, is not a universal thing. It has always evolved from the concepts that men had in their historical context, in all situations. We weren't born with justice. Justice don't even exist in nature. Carnivores, you look at a carnivore, the natural world is inherently unjust, and we ascribe that label to the natural world because of our whole concept of justice in our own minds, and our minds have different world views, right? So I don't believe there's a universal justice that we could apply, as if something existing inherently in the world, and we're going to apply this rigidly, and killing is wrong, so therefore, no killing. Even, and so the first thing here is I didn't understand it fully, but alright, killing, the first premise of this whole argument is that there is a time and a place for killing. If I could have murdered Hitler, I would have, and we would have been better off. In fact, there's a priest who was deemed a hero right now by the Catholic Church. I wonder if it's Catholic Church, but by the church, for coming up with a plot to kill Hitler during the time when, with Germany and whatnot, right? Okay? And the main grouse at that point in time, one of the things that they were looking at was whether or not it was morally justifiable to kill or whatever. But the priest was saying, because of what's going on, I have I have an imperative to kill this man. That is the morally justifiable thing to do, to cause less suffering in the long run. I think, and he believed that he followed through with that. And the truth is, that cannot be debated really and truly. If anybody, that was the whole point of the war, that to bring an end to somebody who it is by their own life threatens the lives of others, by their own living, and the premise that to me is functional to your particular argument is whether people can change, whether you could force somebody to change, how much, to what degree, could we facilitate the process of change in a person, and is it endlessly, do we go on infinitely hoping that people will change at one point in time? If it is, we give them the right conditions, and we bring it out into them. We have a justice system that infuses them with a sense of social responsibility, and makes them as humane and brings peace and that kind of thing. Or is it that some people genuinely, through their own choice and through reasons that we are yet to understand and prove scientifically, don't have the ability to change? That they have the ability to change. All men.
Until they could bring it. Don't talk about it. Don't talk about it until they bring it. Don't talk about it until they bring it.
Why not?
Because I don't want to hear you quote something that you can't back up. Because everything
you don't think I can back it up?
No, I want to see you back it up.
Are you aware? Are you aware of the studies that have been? Are you aware that there have been studies that have been taking place in North America concerning school institutions, public and private? All right. Let me paint a picture.
Guys, what that's it?
Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Why is it that individuals who go to private schools tend to have a better, a more positive outlook about their own possibilities of success than individuals who go to private schools in urban neighborhoods that have a large incidence of delinquency before school attendance?
Public schools in urban neighborhoods.
Public schools in urban neighborhoods. There's a distinct difference, right? There are several factors, that's agreed. But one of those factors that needs to be taken into consideration, actually no, it's more than one factor. The amount of energy and resources that are invested in these two schools. It's similar in Trinidad and Tobago. Prestige schools in Trinidad and Tobago are majorly funded by individual organizations, usually church boards and church organizations that have an extreme spiritual and religious bias, and they believe that investing towards not only an individual's education to a high degree, but an individual's spirituality to a high degree brings out better persons overall. I'm not going to argue whether or not the spirituality needs to be as strict, but overall, institutions of this manner, regardless of the religious denomination, bring out better people, as opposed to public schools funded by the government that get teachers who all they have to do is pay $5 to sign up for their own teacher's registration. My theater teacher that I'm an assistant teacher for, who told me all I need to do to teach cold hard facts is go in the ministry office in Pennsylvania, pay $5, they'll give me a number, go back to the ministry, do an interview, and I can get a job. And those are the teachers, as opposed to private school teachers, that end up getting